Hello, everyone. This is Star Zenith 33 Laura Francesca at Podbean, at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and other platforms. And the reason I say all of these platforms is so you guys can visit them, just in case you miss it in one platform, you can listen it in another platform. So anyway, we're going to be talking about the full moon in Scorpio, which is very, very intense. There's a lot of things going on. I don't think I'm going to talk about everything that's going on, but just the main focal points that we need to pay attention to when it comes to these predictions that are going to happen for the next weeks, okay? It's very, very important. So let's head out there and let's talk about that. Okay. So welcome here to the astro weather here. I'm going to be talking about the Sabian symbol and what it means and how maybe you can relate to that or not. But I'm pretty sure you are going to relate to everything that's going on. This is for the whole collective. And right now we are releasing, we're letting go. I'm talking a little bit softer because it is about 1 o'clock in the morning, exactly 1 o'clock in the morning. And, I'm not trying to wake people up here. But anyway, so this full moon in Scorpio, it's at 11 degrees of Aquarius, okay? Which rules what? It rules communities, it rules social media, it rules the spotlight, it rules information, okay? Any breakthroughs when it comes to technology, we might start hearing a whole lot of that because, Scorpio has to do with healing, it has to do with transformation, it has to do with medicine. This involves therapy, doctors, all of that, right? And at the 11 degree of Aquarius, okay, there is something that has to do with technology, okay, with machines and technology and maybe even robots, okay. So there's this brand new reset that we are doing, and reset is one of the words I did here today. And so that is what's going on. There's some breakthroughs that are going to start happening. So a lot of changes with medicine, a lot of with technology and so forth. It could be a lot of healing as well. I'm hearing the word hallelujah. Wow, that is coming through. So something good must have happened because I just heard hallelujah. Okay, and I never hear it as a download, which is weird. But I welcome it because that comes from God. Okay. As I was talking about the breakthroughs, okay, with technology and so forth. So before that, let's go and head on to the Sabian symbol because there's a lot to talk about, and I might not go into all of it because I'm not trying to stay here for like a long time here, like a whole hour. That I normally do about an hour. But I do want to get some sleep because I'm going to wake up early in the morning and going to do the Spanish one as well. But actually I don't podcast at this hour, but I really wanted to put it out there, for those when they wake up in the morning, they could listen to it and so forth. Okay, so let's head on to the Sabian symbol, okay? For Scorpio, 11 degrees. Let me see. Where are you, Scorpio 11? Okay, so we know, the Sabian symbols, it has a different type of meaning besides the full moon that I'm going to be talking about as well. Okay, so this you can add this information to that and see, how it relates. Okay, so Scorpio 11 degrees means a drowning man is being rescued. The keynote here is the deep concern of the social group for the safety of individuals. This symbol should be interpreted as revealing the basic feeling of relationship between the individual and his fellow men. What is pictured is the expression of this relationship rather than the experience of the person who carelessly, perhaps, ventured too far beyond his depth and then was given a second chance to live. A man risks his life to save another. This is love, based on a sense of responsibility produced by a vivid sense of interrelatedness. Sustained by this love, the individual may be more secure in venturing forth. But this assurance can also lead to unwarranted daring and trust. This is the first stage of the 44 sequence of 5 symbolic phases. It pictures a concern of the social whole for any one of its parts, even if this concern is merely the spontaneous act of rescue performed by a chance bystander. The humanitarianism thus displays has deep cultural roots. Okay. So that's what it is. It's a drowning man that is saved and rescued with by it's is rescued. It could be anybody that rescues. Okay. And it's a form of love. Okay, a form of responsibility that is that has a vivid sense. Okay, that has this vision. 11 degrees also is vision. It's about having to see. Okay, having to see and maybe seeing that man, that went too deep. Went too deep. It could have been anything. It could have been just went too deep beyond in something he ventured or something, or it could be she as well. Okay, that's why sometimes you do have to wait. You have to be patient, because you take a dive and you might not come up. You know, and there might be somebody that can rescue you, something that can happen, and it doesn't have to mean that you're drowning in water. It could be you're drowning in debt, you're drowning in problems. You just can't seem to get out of a situation. Maybe you owe a lot of bank loans, or you own you owe maybe a lot of people, and you went in too deep, too far deep, and because that is what rules Scorpio. Okay, so it's a drowning man being rescued. Okay, so just pay attention to that, and what that could mean in your life. And if you're not drowning, well, that's a good thing. But again, this full moon is for the next 2 weeks. Okay, 2 to 3 weeks. So I was looking at the chart here, and I changed the time on here, Pacific Standard Time, because that's where I have it casted for Pacific Standard Time here in Los Angeles, California, and the houses changed up a little. Okay, so earlier it was in the 4th house, and now, okay, at May 1st, 2026, 10:23 of the morning. Okay, that is when it's going to start here, Pacific Standard Time. We have the moon in Scorpio, the full moon in Scorpio, in the 5th house. Okay, so earlier I was talking about the 4th house, and it just depends. In certain areas, it's a 4th house, certain parts, it just depends on the timing. Okay, that's why I wasn't sure if I should talk about the houses or not, because I'm not trying to, confuse people, but let's go with the 5th house because that's where it's at in the Pacific Standard Time. And I'm reading here for the West Coast. Okay. So where we have the moon here, okay, at 10:23 of the morning, is in the 5th house of children, in the 5th house of entertainment, in the 5th house of Hollywood, in the 5th house of creativity and taking chances and so forth. Okay. And what is going on? There's a lot of things going on here. I'm trying to think how I'm gonna but we'll just I'm just going to jump in there and just go. Um, First of all, the moon is making a yod. Okay. And the yod is the finger of God. So there's something faded. Okay. That is happening here. Okay. Um, what we have here is well, first the yod is the finger of God, and it's a faded points. They're points, and there's it creates chaos. Okay. It's not easy. Okay. And there's going to be challenges with this. Okay, with this yod, there's going to be challenges, and where the challenge is in the apex, which is with the moon. Okay, where Scorpio is. Okay, and we have an aspect of Venus. Okay, that's in the 11th house. And that has to do with communities, that has to do with love, it has to do with social values, networks, future visions, alliances. And that's what happens when we have Venus in the 11th. Actually, I was born with Venus in the 11th house. And so, Venus, frenemies can also pop up, I do got to say. Okay, I've experienced plenty of those. But it could be something to do with the love life. It might be competition, maybe guys fighting for your love, or, and I do tend to get a lot of that. I wish I didn't. Um, but yeah. And so, but there's things you could do so that won't really happen, techniques that you can do. So, but what's happening, there's this sort of like spotlight with Venus, okay? And where Venus is in Gemini, okay? That has to do with social media. It has to do with communication, and it's at 9 degrees, 9 degrees of countries, international, different languages, travel, and so forth, okay? And what it's doing here um, is that it's making an opportunity with Saturn in Aries. Okay. And so we got Saturn in Aries in the 10th house here. And it's status, recognition, honors, rewards, okay, the elevation, where you're applauded and so forth. Okay. Your fame and so forth, where people are recognizing you. Okay. That's the MC, the 10th house. So they're both getting along very well. Venus is getting along well with Saturn, okay, in Aries. So there could be this recognition from Saturn with Venus about what you're doing in the community and so forth, okay? What you're building, it approves of it, it likes it, and so forth. And we have, Saturn's also at the 9th degree of international, okay? So they get along very well. They're forming opportunity, they're shaking hands, they're signing contracts. It's getting along really, really well. The problem is it's with the moon in Scorpio. Okay, that's where the problem is. That's where the apex is. And they're not getting along with this moon in Scorpio. And the reason is that we need to find a solution. The tension is with the moon. It's not with Venus and Saturn. They're getting along very well. The tension is the third party. This is, I call it like the third wheel. I've always explained this when it comes to the yod is being on a date at a dinner restaurant, and then all of a sudden here comes a third party, right? And let's say you were on a date with someone, and then your date invited somebody else, right? Hopefully not an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend, but invited a very close friend, and your date didn't know about this third party. It's like, okay, you didn't tell me you would invite somebody else, right? So it's like, ta-da, yeah, I forgot to tell you. I invited so-and-so, he's going to eat with us as well, or she's going to eat with us as well. So that's going to be pretty uncomfortable, because you didn't say anything. You just invited somebody, and now there's an uncomfortable situation, right? And that third party, decides to, slide his chair and sit down, and now it's awkward, right? It's just now it's like, okay, well then I guess you invited somebody else, and it depends if the other partner is jealous or not. They'll be like, well, I had enough, I'm gonna go. Then you have lunch with him, or you have dinner with him or her or whatever. I'm gonna just leave. So it's something like that. It can be very dramatic, the yods there. But where the challenge is with the moon in Scorpio. Okay, that's where the tension lands with the moon in Scorpio at 11 degrees of community. Okay. And so, with Venus, there could be agreements, with the 11th house. Um, and with Saturn in the 10th house, it has to do with recognition, it has to do with fame. And so, like I mentioned, they get along very well, right? It's just with the moon. And so, what you need to ask yourself is, how does it feel? Because we're dealing with the moon. So how does it feel to, fifth house rules romance, okay? It rules dating, it rules romance. And there could be something about, like I mentioned, this could be like a date or something, or children as well, or maybe it might be somebody that has children, and there's friction there, because you have a decision of maybe dating somebody here with the Scorpio moon that may have children, right? And you might also be dating somebody else over here, okay? With Venus and Saturn, someone a little bit more structured, somebody a little bit more stable, somebody that might not have children, somebody that might be a little bit more older, more mature, has security in some sort, or knows important people, or has information, or been there, done that, and it could be somebody there, and they're getting along well. But it's the Scorpio over here in the fifth house of dating where there's a little bit of issues. So you need to ask yourself, how do you feel with this full moon? Because it's about releasing, it's about letting go. Okay. It is about releasing that emotion. Okay. That intensity. Okay. That can also destabilize you. Okay. And you got to feel good because, well, first of all, the moon in Scorpio, it's not good. Okay. And what happens with the moon in Scorpio there in the fifth house of dating, of children, there could be some secrets coming out about children, or entertainment, that you might not like. Okay. And so there's a pressure point there. There's a place of chronic adjustment. It's also the key to resolution. Okay. So, it's where your life force is precise. Okay. It's where it's ongoing and you have to fix it. Okay. So that is what a yod there is. So as you build the community with Venus in the 11th house, okay, and it gives you that recognition, right? It might be in your community, it might be in another community, where you start getting recognition. You need to figure out if you are misaligned with your emotional truth, okay? Because are you also misaligned? Also because the fifth house is about taking chances, right? So let's say you're building a community and you want to get recognized for that, and maybe you are getting recognized for it, right? But then the moon is Scorpio, there's something about your creativity. There's somewhere where you took a risk, because it's about risk taking that is coming up and needs to be addressed and needs to be talked about. And it might be secretive, and, you know, you signed a contract and you signed your life away, and so what happens is, and going back to the Siberian symbol, is somebody being rescued because it did a foolish mistake, right? It went too deep. It went and needs to be rescued. It needs to have a second opportunity, second chance, and it could be something pertaining to the Siberian symbol as well. So that is the yod, and what happens that these are fated points. So this is where we see the hand of God, okay, an intervention. This is why I put on the cover God's intervention, because that is really who can save you, you know. Especially we have so much Aries, which has to do with independence and being independent and so forth, but we will see the intervention of God. Okay, a lot of breakthroughs are also going to happen. There's something that you have to release in order for you to do a reset. So everybody has a different house in Scorpio. For me personally, I have it in the seventh house of marriage, contracts, relationships, and I've noticed that I've been getting more into um, situations with relationships, pertaining with relationships, and that honestly I'm just letting go, you know. If it doesn't grow me, if it doesn't get me closer to God, if it doesn't, make me healthy as a person, you know, why am I even wasting my time on that? That's just an example, and or just, not visiting certain places that I used to visit, um, but it's something to do with that. It's something that you have to cut off. For me, the seventh house is pretty deep because, you know, it rules partnerships, it rules contracts, it rules um, marriages. If you intend to get married, you look at the seventh house, right? And it's something to think about. What kind of person are you attracting versus the type of person you want to attract, right? And if not, just stay single, and the right one will show up. And there's a lot of choices right now for me, but I'm not rushing into any of that or nothing like that. Right now I'm just focused in building the podcast, I have a lot of ideas building. I'm trying to get more creative in social media, and that's the fifth house. Okay. And maybe we have to release certain platforms and put more attention into other platforms. That could be an idea. Maybe you're in too many platforms and you got to focus on that one that is going to give you your revenue. It's going to give you your return, your ROI. You're going to grow your following and so forth, because we have too many choices right now with Uranus and Gemini. So there could be something to do with your creativity, okay? Like if you are building, for example, here, if I am building a community here, in where I live in the Port of LA, um, you know, um, as it makes an opportunity with Saturn and Aries in the 10th house of recognition, which I don't see it here, but if I do move to another town where I'm more aligned, okay, because I'm misaligned here, okay, I'm going to be honest. I'm misaligned, but that doesn't mean I'm going to just be stuck at home. You know what I mean? I have to get out. I have to go walk around, and especially because they're renovating this. What is it? 500 million? Yeah, it's a 500 million contract that they did with the Port of Los Angeles, and there's going to be a lot of tourism. There's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be, you know, I mean, I have no choice. If I'm living here, I got to get out there, and meet people and tourists. And I love running into tourists. I always run into them, and they're always very friendly, and they're always, kind of lost. So they tell me, where's the nearest restroom? Where can they eat some Mexican restaurants? Or are there any Mexican restaurants? Or there, I'm always running into different people, like, where do you get to the beach and stuff? And so I'm like their guide. And so I like talking to people, I'm like, oh, okay, it's here. And then they're just so friendly. So I could imagine when the whole waterfront is being built. It's going to look really, really nice, really, I would say beautiful, because it's right by the water and brand new restaurants. And by the way, a lot of the restaurants that are coming here, a lot of them are from San Diego. Okay, they're from San Diego, Orange County, um, and I think LA. And then one of them, I don't know if that sushi man is coming from Hollywood, but there was this famous sushi chef that had a famous Hollywood restaurant that actually went out of business, or he closed it up, and he was going to come here to San Pedro. So I don't know if he is going to come, because they're announcing another sushi restaurant. So um, maybe he didn't. Uh, I don't know. Maybe he's not going to come here after all. And they replaced it with another sushi restaurant. But either way, there's going to be a lot of restaurants, going to be a lot of tourism, going to be a lot of people. So it's my way to put myself out there, be doing videos, podcasts, and I'm really focusing, trying to put my brand out there and as a podcaster, and have my business cards and meet people and so forth. So it's gonna be a good time, and that's what I do till I move out of the community. So that's building the community in order for you to brand yourself with that Saturn and Aries in the 10th house of elevation. But like I mentioned, the moon over here in Scorpio in the 5th house of creativity is where the issue is. Okay. And you just have to be able to, you know, either let go of, I don't know, let go of some certain creativity of what you're doing, or because it's very important here with the moon in Scorpio. It's very, very important. Okay. It's not really where the Venus and the Saturn is. They get along well. The problem is over here with the with moon in Scorpio, of having to release, having to let go of some certain creativity. Maybe you were doing a creativity with a Scorpio, and maybe that's not working, right? And you have to let that go, right? And so there's something that, and you might have to move. I do feel a lot of people are going to move because you're misaligned in the community. You're not aligned in the community, even though you still have to release something here in the 5th house of taking leaps, okay, and being a little bit more risky, more adventurous, okay. The 5th house rules entertainment as well, and the lottery, it rules gambling, just taking risks, okay. And but what it's saying is to really look at the risk that you're doing. You just don't want to take any risk. And so you got to have awareness and have discernment, okay, the risk that you take, okay, because that's where, where we're working on the yod, okay. That is where we're going to see the hand of God in that moon in Scorpio, that full moon. A lot of secrets are going to be coming out, okay. A lot of exposure is going to be coming out. So now that I talk about the yod, because that's very important, okay, that's the hand of God, the intervention that's coming in to fix all this mess, okay. There also is a water grand trine, okay, between Jupiter, the moon, and the north node in Pisces. They're all water signs. They form a triangle, and it's very important, okay, because so we have the 5th house here with the moon, and then we have the north node in Pisces in the 9th house of higher learning, of travel, of marketing, okay. It has to do with philosophy and ideals and ethics, and a lot of it has to do with foreign dealings and distant travel, foreigners, tourism. Okay, it has to do with the church. It has to do with beliefs. Okay, and that's where the North Node in Pisces is. Okay, forming a trine to the moon in Scorpio. And also, it's trining Jupiter in Cancer. Okay, and we got Jupiter in Cancer over here in the 1st house of the self. Okay, so Jupiter on the 1st is I am. Okay, And so when you got Jupiter in the first, you're perceived as somebody lucky, somebody blessed, um, somebody childlike. Okay, you might have like a round face or like a moon phase type, or just a baby face or something like that, especially because it's in the sign of Cancer. So you might be perceived as, it's how people perceive you. You might be perceived as somebody lucky, okay, like a star, or because Jupiter is about luck and expansion, okay, or maybe you might gain weight. And maybe you've gained a little bit of weight or something, and people might see you a little bit more, you know, uh, chubby, with Jupiter on the first. And it's just perception. So this water sign, when it's in a trine, they're all flowing together very well. They're all getting along very well, and that's a really really great transit there with Jupiter, the North Node, which is fate and destiny, and the Moon in Scorpio. Okay, so it might be something with the Moon in Scorpio, the full Moon in Scorpio. You have to release something in order for you to enter your fate, your destiny, and for you to feel lucky as well with Jupiter. Okay. And it could be that you might have to move, okay, to a more location where you're more aligned, maybe near the water, near the ocean, near the lakes, near the beaches, um, and where it's fated, okay, where it's fated, where it's destined. There might be some people that are destined to move to here to the port of LA because they're doing the 500 million, contract renovation. They might feel that this is their opportunity to put themselves out there and brand themselves. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of influencers. So there'll be a lot of tourism, a lot of influencers. Little by little, maybe they'll start coming around, and talking about the burger they're eating, or the pizza they're eating, or the taco they're eating, especially in the summer. Then the whole FIFA as well. It's They're having this big old thing also. I don't know if they're having giant screens or something like that, but now there's a place to do it here in the waterfront. So I think there's a couple of events that are going on in the summer for FIFA. But because it's very, here it's very diverse in San Pedro, so there's a lot of diversity, different nationalities. So they're gonna have, with soccer, they always have different nationalities for the FIFA. So we are having the water grand trine, so that's a good thing. Okay, now let's talk about the moon, the full moon that is squaring Pluto, because that is very very important. Okay, that's very important because Pluto, we know that it is, just it's a malefic planet, and there's losses and endings and even deaths. Okay, and although I don't like talking about death, but it is what it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, but there's something about the full moon here that it's already a release anyway. With the moon in Scorpio, it's something you have to let go of something. Okay, maybe because it's in the fifth house, it might be some creativity that's not working out for you. And or a platform, or maybe you have to take more chances. Or maybe you might have to kind of not take as many chances, or it just depends. It pertains to community. Okay, something about the community, and there's something about letting go, and as it squares Pluto in Aquarius. Let me get there. Pluto in Aquarius, they're in the 5 degree, as it's at 5 degrees of Leo. It has to do with entertainment. It has to do with music, film. Um, it has to do with royalty, all of that. And that is where Pluto in Aquarius is. So let me look at what house. It's in the eighth house. Okay. It's the eighth house of endings. The eighth house, they're definitely, I can tell you right now, there's going to be endings. Okay. And there's definitely going to be endings. I mean, we got the full moon in Scorpio. Scorpio rules endings. We got Pluto, that is the ruler of Scorpio, in the eighth house, which is the house of Scorpio. So we got a lot of Scorpio things going on here of endings, okay? And if it's not said once, it's repeated again and again and again of having to let go, okay? And there's repeated, patterns here. So, Pluto, um, it might be have something to do with entertainment. It might be the music industry, maybe certain music that you should not be listening to. It's not good for your soul. It's not good, for your mind or anything. Um, there's some kind of loss here, okay, at the 5 degree of entertainment, okay, with Pluto. So, in the sign of Aquarius, it has to do with technology. It has to do with social media. Okay. So that's that square there. And so fifth house to eighth house is just you took a leap on something and now you got to let it go. Now you got to release it. So we got that. And the ruler here of Scorpio, let's go to Mars because that's the ruler of Scorpio. Okay, so we look at the ruler of Scorpio to see what the heck is going on down there. So we got in Mars, the ruler of Scorpio. It's in the sign of Aries. Okay, and it's at 16 degrees of ancestors. So what it's doing here, it's in the 10th house of public participation. And the motto there is, I relate with the world. Okay, so this is about, being recognized and having promotions and ambition and achievement. And it's how the world sees us and evaluates us. Okay, our position in life, the rise and fall is important with the world. Okay, so that all deals with the 10th house, the applause, the recognition, the honors, the awards. Okay, that's all the 10th house there. And so there is something pertaining to this full moon that of things we're letting go. Okay, that also there is this frequency here of being recognized. And what I'm taking here, because it's at 16 degrees of real estate, of families, okay, there's something that you have to let go in order for you to level up. Okay, only you would know any Scorpio themes that you have to let go in order for you to level up and be recognized and be applauded and have rewards and so forth, especially from family members, or your community within the real estate, your environment. It can also, have to do with children, and it has to do with love and so forth. In the 10th house of recognition of them elevating you and recognizing you and welcoming you, right? In the 10th house, you have to let go something here with the Scorpio full moon if you want to be recognized over here with Aries. Okay, and the reason for being there's something that I feel that is being pushed by family members, by ancestors. They say, when are you going to elevate if you're always there in the environment of the Scorpio? Or you have, there's nothing wrong with Scorpio. Okay, a lot of them are doctors, a lot of them are therapists, and it's where you get your healing on and everything. But we also know the dark shadow of Scorpio can be very dark. Okay, it can be very secretive, very mysterious, and they do dark stuff. It can be very dark. And everybody has a good shadow and a dark shadow and a light shadow, but with Scorpio, it's more intense, right? What happens with the Scorpio when it gets pissed off? It does revenge, right? It does revenge. It wants to get even. I'll teach you, you always see movies and so forth. I say, I'll teach you for you to respect me, you know? I'll teach you that you don't treat me this way. And we see those in those movies between, the jealousy and envy and I've been through some of that, okay? Um, Unfairly, you know, where they try to teach me lessons because I rejected them, or something like that. You know what I mean? They can't handle the rejection, and that stems from their childhood wounds that they have not healed, okay? Because maybe they were abandoned. And this happens to a lot of abandoned children that when they grow up, they cannot accept rejection, okay? And so I don't know, I say a rejection is a redirection. Rejection is a blessing. It's just a redirection and it's also a protection. Okay, it's all matching. It's also a protection. It is, when you understand that, you know, you will do much better. And this is what it's explaining, that when you let go of this and you understand that it's for your good, then you are going to elevate over here in the 10th house. The reason you're not being rewarded, the reason you're not being applauded, you're not being elevated, is because you're not dropping something that keeps you stuck here in the Scorpio. Here in the Scorpio, maybe you're dating a Scorpio, because the 5th house has to do with dating. It has to do with romance, children, love, risk taking, and so forth, right? Maybe it might be a partner that feels very risky or very adventurous, and seems fun, and so forth, maybe going on a secret trip somewhere. It's just an example, right? And you're not telling nobody, right? It just seems adventurous, seems fun. But what the astrology is saying, that's not going to elevate you, you know? Hiding out and doing things like that's not going to elevate you. It's not going to look good on you on the 10th house in Aries. So if you do want to be elevated, you have to drop that, right? Or just get away from that frequency. If you can't drop it for some reason, start doing baby steps and start looking at other places to live at, because you're not aligned there, right? So you just, you keep at it and you keep at it. Well, that's why you're not elevating. It's preventing you from your elevation. So if career really matters to you, if elevation really matters to you, the applause and the rewards and all of that, which it should, if it does matter, then you're going to do the right thing that needs to be done. Okay. So that is what I see there with the Mars in Aries, which is the ruler of Scorpio. Okay. So pay attention there to your elevation and how you want to elevate. And it is about dropping something. Maybe it could be a bad habit. It could be anything. Like I said, you got to look at your chart and see where you have Scorpio. For me personally, like I said, it's 7th house. So for me is about not attracting people that are dark, that I can't trust, people that are too secretive, people that you know that don't cheer you on, that don't support you, and what it's saying is to drop that, and you will get the support, you will get the rewards, you will get the applause, you will get the recognition, you will get the welcoming in the 10th house in Aries over here at the top. Once you let go of what's holding you back, right? What's keeping you in that hole with that person or whatever situation, and you got to wave it goodbye and you got to say, I got to go. I can't keep this anymore. I can't keep doing this anymore, And like I said, for everybody's going to be different. For me, it's in, with people, you know. And so I don't know. I'm not trying to say too much, but I don't really it's difficult me working with Scorpio people. It really is. I tend to get a lot of bad luck. I do. I do. I've tried like signing contracts with people that have like, Scorpio risings or Scorpio moon or and I don't find that till later on, which I already like had signed contracts and stuff and I can't really get out of it, but I did get out of it, but and we're talking about years also, is not just recently, but years. And I don't know what it is about Scorpio. It's like there's just too much control and I'm the type of person you can't control me. I'm very independent and so it's where we've clashed. And my thing is that I'm just doing a lot of analyzing, a lot of thinking about people that, you know, I'm like, if they're like a Scorpio rising, I can't work with you. Because there's going to be a lot of jealousy. I tend to get also a lot of jealousy on their part. And I just, I just can't, I can't work with people like that. And I have family members too that have Scorpio. And there's been a lot of, push and pull, and there's been a lot of immaturity and so forth, and I just cannot. I cannot. So that's one thing about me with the seventh house of contracts and relationships and people that I deal with, that I just decided just not to work with those type of people. You know what I mean? Or not get too close to them because they love money and they will do anything for money. And I'm gonna say, nope, what's mine is mine. you know, I am not, I'm not, I'm just setting boundaries and putting standards. Um, I'm not going to be reciprocal to anybody that wants to take advantage, wants to take my money, wants, you know what I mean? And I'm just not, you know. So I don't know. There's just some things to think about. It doesn't mean that I'm going to tell every Scorpio no. You know what I mean? You got to be professional um, and I don't know. I'm hearing something about you having a lot of ideas. It's coming through. I don't know. It just came really fast right now. Well, there is Chat GPT and Claude that you can ask if you want ideas, right? Um, so anyway, I'm going to end it here. Okay. I think I talked a little bit too much, but I do have to say that the part of fortune is transiting Capricorn at 16 degrees of ancestors, real estate. So that's a good placement there. Okay. Um, with with Folis. It's conjuncting Folis. Okay. So there could be something to do with luck and something to do with the business. At 12 degrees, it could be loss or it could be gains. It could be you start a brand new business, okay? And there's some luck to that, okay? And it has to do with families or real estate. Maybe you might want to get into real estate because in the sign of Capricorn, or some sort of business, okay? So there's some luck there. And that's what we have. So this is gonna be a very intense full moon. I do have to say we got some the grand water trine. That's a good thing that's happening. But that square to Pluto, there's definitely something that's gonna end. Okay, there's definitely people are gonna be disappearing in our lives. They're probably gonna ghost us. They're probably some are gonna probably pass away. There's gonna be a lot of curveballs, and we just gotta be awake and pray. Drink lots of water, go for hikes. Get some nature, get some sun. Um, you know, if you're a God believer, stick to God, and and just pray. But I feel also because of that water grand trine, there could be some money coming in. Okay, I know that there was another full moon exactly at 11 degrees 2 years ago, and that is when I was hired to be a healthcare worker for my mother. And I didn't know that I could get paid for it. And so I researched, and then I qualified for, to have a part-time job. So I'm grateful for that. It's not too difficult, it's not too hard or nothing like that. But there's things that, does take my time, being a healthcare worker. Other things that I have to do, and that's why, it's a job and it's part-time. It's only a couple of hours. But, it helps me, to fund my business and so forth. And I'm grateful for it. And that happened 2 years ago when the moon was in Scorpio, okay, at 11 degrees. And so I looked at the date in 2024. That's when I was hired, actually in August. And, you know, it's, it's been a journey, but I don't know what's going to happen now, at the same degree of community. So there might, I did hear a download something about you're going to start working or something, or something to do with maybe brands that are going to be approaching me, something to do with that, because I do work part time, um, but I would love anything like that, to work from home, like maybe branding and having some brands and stuff. I know I'm hearing the word charity's coming down, having to do charity. I would love to do charity. Oh, once the money comes in. And so I do have three charities, by the way. I do have three charities that I would like to start funding. So I just give it to God and see what happens. Also, I do want to mention about the website that I do have, okay, at www.starzenith33.com. And you can head out there, and if you are interested in getting a chart reading, just like what I do here for the collective, but this is your personal chart, okay, that is tailored to you. And I see red flags on there. I see, oh, you're doing good with money. I see a red flag. I see green lights. I see, you know, red flags. I see this is coming up, and you might not know about it, right? Um, and so I do that, and I give solutions as well. I do have, I'm certified in neuroscience, so I know psychology and all of that. And so, give solutions, spiritual solutions as well. Okay, that I've tried on myself and they work, and just all of that. So there's a lot of charts there. No, well, not too many, but I didn't want to put too many, but I just put the most important ones. And I am doing also real estate numerology, okay, for those that want to know, like if you want to buy a house and you want to know what the frequency is like. I also know Feng Shui, so I apply Feng Shui practices on the numerology. Once I do all of that, it's all there in the website, but I just want to talk a little bit about it. I can look at the frequency of the house, because a lot of times you buy houses and then you end up there's ghosts in the house, or there was this pipe that they didn't tell you about, even though the um what is it, the inspector, they looked, everything was good and everything. You bought the house and then later on there's a pipe that's broken, or something. And so there's things like that that can happen with the house. And just basically looking at the numerology and stuff like that. I can look at what type of frequency you have, and how to fix the frequency in case you're having, like, if you have ghosts, if you feel you got ghosts, then I will look at the numerology and why that is happening. And I can overlap it also with the astrology, and look at also the location, the relocation where you moved, what type of frequencies around the home, it's very detailed, that's why it's not cheap. But, you could just surf over there in the website, look at it. If you do want to schedule also a consultation with me, I have 1 hour consultations on there as well. And there's a lot of fun stuff over there as well. So anyway, I'm gonna end here the full moon, but hope everybody is having a great night. And if you did like the podcast, please do share, please do like, because we're just starting here at Podbean, and I'm trying to do more podcast episodes here consistently. And I enjoy doing them, by the way. I really do like talking on the microphone. It must be my Gemini and Saturn. And so I like to analyze things, charts and so forth, and predictions. And when I do talk on the microphone, I do hear downloads, live downloads, okay, that come tapped in other worlds that maybe they want me to share with the collective. And so, if they come down, I will share them, So anyway, do share, do like, do tell your friends, do subscribe, okay? And I will see you on the next episode. Good night.